Welcome to Zombie Apocalypse, Episode 8. My name is Jerry Cabzuto from GodIsLoveTruthLife.com. We also have, I'll pass it to Jeff.
Hi, my name is Jeff Hammond. My YouTube channel is Decentralizing Mind Control. Welcome to the Zombie Apocalypse podcast. We're going to talk about one of Kevin's suggestions, the Khazarian Mafia. And I just want to do a clarification. A lot of
And we also have Kevin.
let me do my clarification first. Come back to me after you do your interruption. I do want to do this clarification. Your not interruption, your introduction. Sorry.
You're talking to me? For me?
Yeah, my bad.
Okay.
Yeah, do your introduction, but I do
Okay.
want to do some clarification before we get
Okay.
started.
Well, yeah, I had sent on uh, Telegram Chuck Swindoll. He is talking about the Khazarian Mafia, and he was talking about how he had posted a video that was only 7 hours posted on YouTube, and I was fascinated because I had listened to him. He actually was partially got me kind of because he would often periodically refer to Mark Passio, and he was instrumental in a way, partially, for me to start thinking about Mark Passio again because I listen to so many people. It's hard to keep track of everybody, and
Right.
it's all, but I mean, Mark Passio is so right. The great work is action, and that's what's lacking from my great work, and that's why I'm doing this in the here and now. That's why I'm here. I, but Chuck Swindoll, I was listening to him a few months ago, and he posted a video, 7 hours. It was on YouTube, and I started watching it, and I put it at 1.5 speed. The maximum speed for a video is 2, like double speed. I was listening at 1.5, and I got three-fourths way through it, and YouTube took it down. You know, have you ever experienced that before, where you're watching a YouTube video and it's taken down? Did that ever happen to you before?
Yeah,
Not like
actually,
that.
before you recommended it, like YouTube recommended it to me in my views, and I kind of browsed through it. It was long. I decided to watch it later, and then I forgot about it. I see why it was taken down, but you recommended it. I had to watch it on Rumble because it's already off of YouTube. It happened to be on this same
Well,
video.
Well, the one I sent you on Rumble was the best I could figure was the precursor. I guess that's not the word precursor, but the one that comes before it, I believe it is. I'm just surmising that was the case. And he was doing a sequel. I was trying to follow his flow, and but the one that I had watched, I couldn't even find it on Rumble yet. But I'm sure he will post it eventually on Rumble because a lot of his other works are on Rumble. But anyway, the video I was watching was really horrific. It was very disturbing, and just to say the punchline is just too it's so bizarre. And I kept thinking a lot of times I think when I used to write mental health assessments, I used to in my graduate school training, I would write a mental health assessment, and one of the things you do when you write a mental health assessment, it's kind of like a glorified incident report, but with the mental health assessment, one of the main things is what brings you here today. You know, that's one of the big. And then with that, there's an underlying thing. But I was thinking in terms of why is he posting this now, and why is it taken down now? That I started thinking that way. You know, and it was 7 hours old, and then it was taken down. So it's not too difficult to infringe on YouTube guidelines. So, and given the content he was talking about, it's no wonder it was taken down. But a lot
And
of
we're
his other
recording this the
videos,
day after Halloween, too. So for those that.
right? And so I was thinking too, like, why did he choose to write about such a gruesome event, right around Halloween? And so I thought to myself, well, this must have something to do with it must have something to do with you know it being let's say somebody just went out the door and got it got my train of thought messed up. Um, but anyway, so um, he's taken it. It's taken down after 7 hours, and so I'm thinking maybe he's posting it because it is Halloween, and sometimes with Halloween they glorify. People go to haunted houses that are made up, and I'm thinking he might have. I'm just vicariously wondering. That's a good highfalutin word, vicariously. I was just vicariously thinking through him, like, why would he do this now? Maybe because it is Halloween, and people are glorifying this kind of crap, and unless you call it out, they go ahead and do this in plain sight. Like a lot of the Hollywood videos, movies will tell us certain things, and it's their way of mocking the victim. You see, and I think what it requires a little background knowledge to know that kind of stuff. But this is a little bit for someone who's been tempered a little bit, because I can't explain everything to everybody. But a lot of times, part of karmic shielding the people who do these horrific things and why they do it is another story altogether. But they feel like they have to let people know, kind of like it reminds me of Batman and Robin. The Joker has to let you know a little bit because it's a way of mocking the victim and saying, "I told you so," but you're too stupid to figure it out. One is too
I
stupid to figure it out, and therefore it's your fault.
I
So you
noticed the
didn't catch
video
on.
posted several weeks ago. Was it taken down and then taken down again on Halloween?
No, those were sequels. I sent you
Oh,
sequels to it that I surmise most likely were the sequels. I don't like his method of numbering videos, but it could be because it's just there might be a reason for that. That the
oh,
videos
I,
aren't
I
that
thought you said
related.
episode 1 and episode 2, or part
He
1
has,
and 2 of the part series. I thought that was
yeah.
the whole thing.
I said there's one, two, there's one and two, and then there's a third. He labeled the one that was taken down was 3A or 3B, and it was entitled something to the effect of the it was called what was the name of that? What was the title of the video? Um, Gosh, my mind's going blank. But it was oh, the God Eaters. That's what it. And he explains in the video why a lot of his videos are entitled God Eaters, and why he explained it was pretty horrific. And I thought, God, that is so Halloweenish. Just no wonder maybe he's pushing it out, because sometimes they mock victims by letting people know that kind of shit.
Well, and let's shine the light on this darkness. They're called God eaters because these sick dark, satanic occultists are eating the pineal glands of children.
Exactly. I mean, you just said it. I'm glad you said it, because I felt like, yeah, it's so bizarre, not, and I'm glad you said that, because I was going on and I felt like a lot of I said required background information, but that's the punchline. Well, the punchline is not it.
In
It's
part
the
1,
theme is more like that's the theme of what he's talking about, is what Geraldine just said. Um, a terrible theme, but that's it. They do all kinds of things to make the pineal gland messed up by fluoride and all this crap in the water and the food, and the pineal gland has a lot to do with our compassion and our ability to empathize with other people. This is according to Chuck Swindoll. I didn't realize the pineal gland did that. My understanding is has to do with our God source and our sense of an antenna to higher power, beyond ourselves. But he was saying it has a lot to do with our ability to experience compassion and empathy for other people, and it definitely has to do with our sense of our God center, so to speak. I would think our God center is just not in one area, but anyway, yeah. So they eat that in a very sick way, because it's like they don't have it in themselves, so they take because they don't have it, and so they consume it. That's what I was getting out of the video, according to him. That's how I understood Chuck Swindoll. Okay. And he has to be here to explain himself, but that's what I was getting out of it.
I thought it was a very interesting video. I only saw the first part of the part 1 of 2 series. I didn't get a chance to watch the second yet. They briefly mentioned that they eat the pineal gland, but they didn't explain like all of the reasons why. I hope they explain that in the second. Like I look forward to watching the rest of it. I know some things about the pineal gland. It's considered the third eye. It's maybe a connection to the spiritual world, a connection to God, and you're saying they're the God eaters. So, I want to hear the exact reasons, like what they thought they got out of it, and like
Is the
have
audio
you heard more
sounding
details from watching
crackly?
the whole thing?
Is
What?
your audio
It
sounding
did
crackly? Yeah.
not anymore. It did for just a few seconds and stuff.
Yeah.
I
So
wanted to.
Go
Huh?
ahead.
I
Go
did
ahead.
want to clarify something. The Khazarian Mafia is something that's brought up by a lot of Jew haters, and we're not Jew haters, but it's an interesting part of history, an important part of history. I want to talk about these topics. I'm Jewish myself, and this podcast isn't about hating anybody for like their heritage or their background, but it's interesting to talk about like it's important to understand the corruption in all different cultures and nations, and I'm not going to make an exception to mine because I'm Jewish. There's like every government and every organized religion is totally corrupt. We're not singling out Judaism as the only corrupt religion. All organized religions are corrupt, but Judaism doesn't have to be taken as a religion. Neither does Christianity or Islam or Freemasonry or Rosicrucianism. All these things uh, are a mix of truths and falsehoods. There's not a perfect book where everything in it is correct, and there's not, and none of them are totally false either. You need to use discernment.
Jeff, your audio keeps crackling. Are you hearing it too, Kevin? The crackling?
It stopped. It stopped.
Yeah.
The crackling.
Oh,
I wonder what's causing
maybe I was messing with my cord. I'm going to make sure to not touch it. It was like hanging on my knee, and maybe I hit it with my hand. Is that better? You still hear the crackling?
I do. Just slightly. Like
I don't
every
hear
so
it.
often it comes in and out.
Is it really distracting or hard to hear me?
Yes, it is for me.
I don't hear it anymore.
I'm just saying when there's long, like it'll come in and out. So just so you're aware that folks may not be able to capture everything that's said. But
yeah, also like we had some guy on the podcast before who is a Jew, right? I wasn't sure about that. He was telling me that like he questions like the Holocaust and history and everything. I was telling the reasons like I'm still willing to associate with him. I want to hear his explanation for why he thinks what he thinks, but now I'm not willing to associate with him even to hear his explanations for why he thinks what he thinks. Like he was disrespecting Jews and people of other races. So like I'm not gonna like give any explanation for why I would associate with him. I don't associate with Slav Squatch anymore. So I want to clarify that because I think it's a disgrace to associate with him. I don't want to be looked at like a Jew hater or a neo-Nazi or anything because of my company. Because I'm Jewish myself, and no, I don't support organized religion. I don't support the Talmud or rabbinical Judaism, but I don't support the other religious institutions either. But the spiritual tradition behind all of the religious institutions is like there's one in Judaism too, and it's the spiritual tradition that I was raised with, and No, I'm not going to disrespect my family or others who are born into any culture or tradition. Because you're born into it, you don't. It doesn't. You have to accept the corruption in it. I totally denounce all corruption. I denounce. I denounce the whole Talmud and rabbis and all of the congregation institutions, but of my religion and all the rest. But I just wanted to make that clear. So that's important. Let's talk about the Khazarian Mafia. It's
Well,
the King
the thing
Khazar
about
was someone from the Bible. What?
see, I was raised Catholic, and the way I understand George Maxwell and Michael Bessarion, and this Chuck Swindoll is very steeped in that schooling of, I should say schooling, but that's the only thing I can think of. The background of Michael Bessarion, George Maxwell, and also, by the way, he's steeped in Joseph Campbell, and I was really interested in Joseph Campbell before the Internet of Things, before I even started academia. I spent 20 years on Joseph Campbell's stuff, and he's a fascinating man. Um, so because Chuck Swindoll has that background knowledge in those three areas, I took him extra seriously. Okay. Um, but what Chuck Swindoll might say here, if he was here, is he's basically, as I understand, Jordan Maxwell and Michael Starian, to a degree, Joseph Campbell would go along with this. Not that much, though. He didn't talk about the origins of Judaism and Christianity that much. He mostly dealt. Joseph Campbell is mostly dealing with comparative religion and tying in Carl Jung and the parallels are due to the psyche of the mind, the archetypes of the unconscious. Okay, and whereas another view is diffusion in terms of anthropology, and Michael Bessarion is coming in from the standpoint of diffusion, how cultures move into one another, and the parallels are not parallels; it's because of influence. And both these are both two legitimate views of anthropology. I studied anthropology a little bit in academia. I took 3 classes in it. So, but anyhow, but as I understand George Maxwell, he was saying that the Catholicism, when the Roman Empire was falling, it needed people not question were questioning the gods, and they wanted a unifying religion, and they were really upset with Zionists because the Zionists had a favored situation. Not Zionists, but the Jewish people of the Roman Empire, a favored position. They didn't have to pay taxes, but these certain Zionists, they rebelled.
Yeah, at the beginning of the Roman Empire, I don't think there were Zionists yet.
Yeah, no, we're talking about
Zionism.
78.
What?
According to Joseph Atwell, and people like him, and what's his name? He's another highfalutin guy. What's his name? I can't think of his name. He's a friend of mine on Facebook, of all things. But they're very similar. His name is. He's a friend of a colleague of Michael Bessarion. But anyway, both scholars, Joseph Atwell and this other one, who wrote the Jesus the Last Pharaoh. This scholar who wrote Jesus the Last Pharaoh. He's saying that Jesus really lived 40 years after. Well, Joseph Atwell doesn't even think that Jesus existed, whereas this other scholar is saying he lived 40 years after than the actual time. I just realized it's an awful big topic, what I'm trying to say here. But it's just I don't know where to go. But I guess why I was going this direction is you were saying that he felt that we wanted to clarify that he's not anti-Jew. Well, that's hard to do because with the Roman Empire, it really depended on it really was kind of anti-Semitic in a way because it was requiring to take a history from a Jewish people that
No, the
Right.
Roman Empire might be anti-Jewish. What I'm trying to clarify is our podcast is not anti-Jewish.
No, absolutely not. No, it's
Yeah,
not. If
that's
it
my
is
main
to
point.
somebody, that's not the intention. If somebody's taken, I can't control that, how they take it. But that's
Yeah,
not
the
the
Roman
intention.
Empire, I think it might be. Like, I don't know the history of the Roman Empire in so much detail, but I think they might be anti-Jewish. I wasn't saying that. I'm just clarifying
Well, I think
that our
I was
podcast.
just trying to. Well, when in 70 AD, when there was that, when a lot of Jews, a certain type of Jews, they were kind of called zealots. When they rebelled, they didn't want to have that happen again, and they were having problems with unit when they kept getting foreigners coming in to fight their wars. They wanted to have a unifying new religion, and so they were funding different religions according to Joseph Atwell and this other dude who wrote Jesus the Last Pharaoh. And what they did is one of the things the emperor who wrote the Meditations of Stoicism. What was that name? But that was one of the
Marcus.
religion. Marcus Aurelius, yes. Like they were funding these different, and they decided now there's an esoteric side of Christianity that's very separate. Well, we're talking about empire. That was different. You had the esoteric history of Christianity, which is very different. I mean, you had the Gospel of Thomas and everything, but the empire is trying to make a new religion, and so they didn't want to have another 70 AD rebellion. So they thought that they needed the history of a legitimacy. They used the Jewish history, and the Jewish people, according to Michael Khazarian, were in a precarious situation because when Atlantis fell, they got in all this weather modification, according to him. No, that's according to him, because I don't want to sound like a kook. But according to him, they were involved in weather modification, and so they needed um, they needed to hide out, and they and basically became Judaism. But it was in at one time when before Atlantis fell, there was a land bridge that connected it to Ireland, and so anyway, the original Jewish people were basically, according to the way I understand Joseph Atwell and what's that guy's name who wrote Jesus the Last Pharaoh? I can't believe I can't think of his name. But when it fell, um, they had to hide out because they had this advanced technology and stuff, but they didn't know how to implement it because they lost other things to make the technology work. Okay, and so um, anyway, when Christianity was being made as an empire religion, the Roman Catholic Church, according to Atwell, they took the Jewish history and they stigmatized the history because they knew that in a way that it was typology. They were using some of Hinduism and stuff, but anyway, they stigmatized it. And yet at the same time, if you were willing to be a tax collector for the Roman Empire, they would when they'd excuse it, you know. So it was a strange relationship. They just wanted a religion that people would march and not study too much. And whereas Judaism was a religion of knowledge and study, and they wanted a religion for people to march, to follow orders. So um, anyway, but so getting to just Swindoll, this guy now Swindoll to me is a contrived name. I can't believe his real name is Swindoll. He must have chosen that name as a because his name might be too common like Jones or something, but it seems like a contrived name. His name is Chuck Swindoll. I mean, I've never heard of such a name like that, but
I want
anyway,
to look at more of his
uh,
work. He like this thing you recommended was a pretty good documentary, the God Eaters.
yeah, yeah, it's quite interesting, and he's just talking about that, you know, that the the Jewish religion they had something dark about it, and because but you had a lot of different sects that were really good. You know, you have generations and generations of people. It's like kind of like when you have children and they have children, and some of them are illegitimate, but they go off and do their own thing, and they have a life of their own. So to
It's all the
say,
different bloodlines they talk about in the Bible, basically.
yeah,
The
right.
Japheth,
So,
the Ham, the Hamites and Canaanites, and etc. And the Khazarians were one of them. Khazar was one of the biblical people, like the
I
grandson
have to,
of Noah or something.
yeah, I have to use the restroom. If I could just give me like 2 minutes and I could come back, I have to go to the restroom. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, I
Is that
wanted
all
to
right?
say
Will that
something.
work?
I wanted to mention the point Mark Passio was saying. I could say that while you're in the restroom,
Okay, I'm gonna put the phone right here. I'll be right back.
or before I do that, do you want to take a turn? I don't want you to not get a chance to talk much like last time.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks. Yeah, I really enjoyed what I've heard so far from Chuck Swindoll. I'm really glad that Kevin brought up his work with us because I really feel like there was a lot of alignment between his work, also Fritz Springmeier's work, Mark Passio's work, Jay Parker's work. There was a lot of confluence of, yeah, just what they're reporting and just general um, research that I've done on satanic ritual abuse.
Yeah, Jay
And I wanted
Parker's
to,
abusers said they were said that he was from a Malachite line.
right. So tying in that, right, with what you shared earlier about your distaste for Steve Slav Squatch. Um, while I understand and recognize that impulse, I think by choosing to separate from him due to a perceived insult, we're playing into that divide and conquer strategy, which is a type of mind control, right? And in general, um Satanists have many faces. They use, all kinds of, as you said, religions, Judaism being one of them, all the Abrahamic religions, Christianity.
He's welcome to associate with
So
me again if he's willing to promise not to disrespect me. It's a
can I
self-defense
finish my
principle that
thoughts since I let you
everyone's
talk without
entitled to. Like,
interruption?
uh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry, bro. So yeah, so what I was trying to say is, since we know that Satanism has so many faces, um, you know, I agree that there should be distinctions made between, right, the Jewish religion and like the Jewish people or culture. But at the end of the day, if you look at identity politics in general, right, what does that do? It atomizes people. People start identifying with certain aspects of their identity, and like, for like, I don't really think of myself as an Asian person. I get that other people perceive me that way, but like, you know, like for me to be confused as Japanese or Chinese or whatever, knowing that like those people overtook my people for millennia, once you get caught up in that, like that the atomization, that politics of the identity, it just like you just got to step away from it and just realize that it's there to keep us from doing the great work together. Do you
I'm
know what
not
I
divided
mean?
from anyone else, but I'm identifying as a Jew, and if someone disrespects me for that,
But
I refuse to put up with it. I won't tolerate
dude,
it, but
dude,
Sorry
I'm
about
just
that.
telling
Go ahead.
you, I've been told to fuck off because of my interest and association with ETs, and by that same party that we're discussing, and we're still cool. Like, I don't identify with anything. I have no ego. I don't care what people think or say about me. I'm focused on the great work and collaborating with people. So that's just my 2 cents. I know people are going to have beef with me, or I might feel an offense, but like, I just think of the Zen cone of like two boats coming together in the night, and there's the fisherman's yelling, "Hey, you're about to hit my boat." And then the fog clears and he realizes that the boat he's been yelling at that's about to hit his boat was empty the whole time, meaning, we take and personalize things, but it's not really directed towards us because we don't really like, you know what I mean?
Well, like I defend the innocent, whether it's myself or someone else. But I do have an ego, and I do self-defense. I don't put my ego ahead of my conscience. I'm not obsessed with the ego, but I have a healthy, holistic intelligence, and the ego is part of that. I'm not ashamed to have an ego, and I'll defend myself. But also, when he's using the N word, like even though I'm not black or anything, like I corrected him about that as well. It's not just about my ego, but it's about correcting wrong, or I'm not going to associate myself with someone who disrespects innocent people. Like
I mean, dude, like I have black children, like they're mixed black and Korean, and like the way I see it, like that, like the N word, like I don't use it. If someone else is going to use it, like again, I'm trying to focus. It's a divide and conquer strategy. We're playing into the boxes that the satanic elite want us to fall into, and I just try to rise above that and just be like whoosh, like that's just a wave that's just going to come over me and not really hit me.
I
Like
do rise
when a
above that. I
wave
expect other people to rise above that too, to associate with me.
when a wave comes at me, I try to swim under it and through it rather than conquer and overcome it. Like I just try to integrate myself as part of it, and in so doing, nothing I'm untouchable.
I'm not out to get the guy. I just don't want to associate him while he's disrespectful. Like if he stops being disrespectful, I would associate with him and talk to him and try to get to the bottom of why he thinks the way he thinks. But I am clarifying that, like, last I talked to him, he was disrespectful. I tried to call him. He didn't answer my call. He was talking in a group chat. He was disrespectful directly to me. And you and both of you. He said Jeff in his fag cuck podcast and all Jews and kikes and niggers or something. So like,
Who was this guy?
Slav Squatch.
So
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
again,
Was he
like
on?
like if we're
and I'm
if
not going
you
to associate with
react,
the white power message. That's not my message, and I refuse to associate with it. I'm not going to change that. Like,
you have
and
you have your free
I'm
will
not fitting into
choice.
this divide and conquer. Like, I just expect that my associates not to fall into the divide and conquer or the victimhood mentality or any of the garbage mentalities. Like, I want them to get out of the mind control. And you know what? Like, even if they do have the bad mentality, they could still associate with me, and hopefully they get better as long as they don't disrespect me. I don't put up with disrespect or violation of rights. I'm against those things. I don't associate people with people who disrespect innocent people or violate rights of innocent people.
So the way I kind of metabolize it is I just um I I think what I see a lot happen in our community sometimes, even like, for example, people will really get affected and offended by like, Mark Passio's tone, or like, you know, I try to like when someone's insulting me, I feel that, I hear it, and I can have that reality. And then there's this other reality where I'm thinking, well, why are they saying that? Like what is their motivation? And is it really directed at me, or is there something else underneath that? And like I try to like get to the motivation, and like same with Mark Passio, like, well, why is he angry? Well, and if you get to the root, if you get to the why, the cause, like,
Mhm.
I'm
then
willing to do that and talk to him if he quits the disrespect. I'm still open-minded. Like, you just got to quit the disrespect. I'm
Well,
not
dude,
going to.
like you're disrespecting me by interrupting me all the time and not letting me talk, for example, and I'm cool with you. Like that's the point that I'm making. Like
I'm not interrupting. I'm interjecting. Like, I'm saying
you're
something real quick, a
interrupting me because
commentary on what
I
you say, and
you're
then stopping
literally
to
interrupting me
continue.
right now, my friend. And I
No,
forgive you for it. You
there's a
interrupt me all
difference
the
between
time, and you're
interrupting and
doing it
interjecting.
now. You're doing it now. And I forgive you every time you do it because I'm here for the great work. I'm glad that you're talking. I'm glad you're on camera. And I'm willing to put up with it because I want you to say your piece. I want Kevin to say his piece. I want us all to say our piece. Because, you know, if we get our community is so small, that's the thing. Like, if we had a ton of people to work with and choose from, you know, sure, fuck whoever, fuck that person, fuck that other person. But it's like we really need to like work together because this is our
It's funny.
team, you know?
I've got something to say about the interruptions. Like maybe it's a solution or a way to understand it. Like I think we should distinguish between interruptions and interjections. An interjection is something that's like that has to be said, but it's quick. And the point of an interjection is if someone has something to say, you don't want to interrupt. You want to hear their long thing they have to say, but certain parts of it, uh, they require a response, and you'll lose track of all these things if you wait till the end. So sometimes it's good to like cut in and respectfully make a quick response and then be done with it. Like the interjections need to be brief to respect like this long thing that's going on, and then let them continue. And like all of us have things to say that are sometimes long, and we don't want to get cut off before the end. But if I'm talking too long, like I don't want to prevent saying the rest of my story. But like if someone has something to say and they can't wait, like I don't want to be interrupted, but I'll stop and listen if I know it's just a short thing, and then continue after. And I'll try to do that to others sometimes. So.
Well, we could, all we could also do like timed times. We timed how much time we're speaking. Like say 4 minutes each. That's another option.
We were thinking about trying to do something organic, but like I'm down to experiment with something else. Like it might be more practical. We'll see how it works. If we don't like it, we always quit. Like take turns. We have timers or something.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get back on topic. Maybe. Sorry, I'm the one who started this sidetrack tangent. My bad, but.
Well, like I was saying, I don't really think it is a sidetrack because, again, like everyone has their free will choice. My free will choice is to see why people are saying certain things, to not play into the divide and conquer because our community is so small, and to try to work with as many people as I can in our small community to promote the great work. I'm laser focused on that. I don't care. I've been told to fuck off by Sviatoslav. Steve's told me to fuck off, and I got hurt, and we took our break, and we're friends again. Like, shit happens with people in small communities.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Right.
There's other people that probably hate me in our community for whatever reason, for whatever projected shadow, and like it's all good. Like, I'm willing to reconnect later. Like, if you care about the great work, you're on my team. I'm here to help you. Let's figure this out.
If you have like a really bad mentality, like by being part of the great work, you could bring disgrace to it and make it look bad. Like it's if you're part of the great work, like you are on my side, but like you could have intentions to be part of the great work, but because of like if you're misunderstanding so bad, you could be doing more harm than good. And but basically, if you want to do good instead of harm, you could learn and change and get better. And like, no, I don't want to exclude anybody. Like, hey, if you're gonna stop being disrespectful, you're welcome to associate with me, and we could talk and work things out. But like, not. I don't associate with people who disrespect me because I respect myself. That's my ego. I do have an ego, and I'm not ashamed of it.
Kevin, what are your thoughts
On what?
on this idea of offense and divide and conquering and identity politics and the great work and
Well, I
the
think
size of our community.
identity politics is a disaster. Martin Luther King knew that if he stuck with identity politics, there would be no way. And but the reason what he was sticking with was class and war as a big organizing principle. How oppressed people of class and the war machine, and he equated that with racism, and that's what got him assassinated. You know, and then he was meeting with a favorite monk of mine. What's his name? Thomas Merton, and I think that's what there's circumstantial evidence that Thomas Merton was also assassinated, but it was officially a fan that fell on at a retreat where he was giving a talk. But anyway, as far as identity politics, I think it's a disaster. Um, it's a way of divide and conquer. Um, so
I don't like
and
categorizing people into different groups. Like the idea of races in the first place. How do you define race? And Judaism. Like if I don't follow the organized religion, I told you what it is to me as a spiritual tradition, but other people think of it as like a culture or something. Like whether I follow the organized religion or not. Like my grandmother, who I love and respect, she's no longer alive in her physical body, but one of the most wonderful people in my life. She told me that I'm born Jewish and I can't change that, and I believe her. And like that's the reason I hang on to the identity myself, even though I don't like identity politics. But I believe her that I'm a Jew. I don't understand why I'm a Jew, even though I'm born a Jew. But it must be more than an ideology. But race is something I already don't believe in. I don't think it's race. To me, the thing that I value that I retain is the spiritual tradition, the good things about it, like the golden rule. Um,
mhm.
but totally, I don't like categorizing people into different groups to turn them against each other. That reminds me of like the point that Mark Passio brought up in the class that I really wanted to mention because
Hold
it's so
on.
great.
Can we let Kevin finish his thought?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I didn't mean to take over.
About okay, so yeah, I was just saying that I thought identity politics is a disaster, and as far as the other one that you mentioned, what was the other one that you had said?
Victimhood mentality.
Uh, the way, oh yeah, as far as the great work, working on one shadow is a big. It's really is important, and I think materialism prevents people from doing that. You know, but that's a huge factor. You know, so I wonder why Mark Passio is decided to do his recent talk on shadow. Certainly it was shadow that got me to come back to, like, I was looking at Carl Jung a lot recently, and I think I just had to admit that I couldn't find anybody else like Mark Passio, and I always liked him. I just didn't like the idea of actually going along with anarchy. You know, I mean, I always wanted to think that there's some form of government, you know, that could be worthwhile. But the more I start realizing it, it's such a scam. You know, especially
Self
with it.
government. It's got to be
Yeah, you look at a lot of
decentralized
nature.
to the individual.
Well, it's just so hard to organize people, and you know, like there's so many differences people can have, but you know, it's just
No,
oftentimes
people governing
in
others,
America.
I agree, is totally wrong. I think I have the same understanding as you. It's just semantics that I'm clarifying. Government
Hmm.
means mind control. Our mind
Right,
needs to be under control, but I need to control my own mind. No one else controls my mind. I don't control anyone else's mind. Same for you and the next
right,
person.
right. That's true. That's why I just decided that that's the way to go. You know, um, there were other things too. I
You know, the video you recognize that you recommended made me recognize, like, yeah, I kind of think of my enemy as the government, but that's not so accurate. What do I call it? Because, like, self-government is a good thing. No, what's always wrong is crime, organized crime. The enemy is the mafia. It's the whole mafia. Like, they started in Khazaria, but it's like all these mafias are part of the big mafia, including all the
Right.
organized religions and all the governments.
Did you ever see that George Maxwell video? He was talking about how he had talked with an FBI agent, and he was saying that the FBI agent had told George Maxwell that we've been listening to your broadcast, and you have really good work, but I want to let you know that the biggest obstacle you're going to experience is organized religion. So that is where a lot of the corruption is at.
The FBI told him that? Was it some non-corrupt FBI guy who, like, secretly liked Jordan
Yeah,
Maxwell?
apparently so. And that's why Jordan Maxwell was sharing it. If I find it, I'll send it your way.
Okay.
The video. Yeah. I listened to it actually twice. It was quite good. So it was probably on the Great Works YouTube station, XV1. Have you ever listened to that, XV1?
I thought it was Xbone. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I found it on YouTube. That's the Great Works YouTube station?
I know it's one of Mark Passio's stations
I know
on
that
YouTube.
whoever runs it uploads a lot of Mark Passio videos, short clips, as
that's probably what it is. Yeah, it's probably tacitly what somebody who is similar to Mark Passio in his work.
I recently subscribed to it about a week ago.
Oh, okay.
Or 2 weeks ago or something.
I've been listening to that for a couple of years now, and then I started realizing I started hearing stuff from Mark Passio, and I started realizing it's like almost. This is several months ago. I was listening to some really interesting videos.
I'm in episode 220 something. Like, he really describes things good. I want to try to do the same thing with our podcast. And
episode 220. Let's see, which one was that? Episode 220. Oh yeah, I'm at episode. I started from the very beginning.
I'm all the way up 227.
I'm up to 240 or I'm up to 250 something, like 253. I started at 1, and many years ago, I listened to it before he was on. He did live broadcast. He used to do just audio. And back in 2015, I listened to broadcasts he did from like 2008 or 2009 or something like that, up until 2015. And they were all just audio. There was a different format. They were really interesting. I got really interested in different ways to heal oneself. Like, that's got me very learning about Jim Humble and all kinds of other ways of self-healing. That was really fascinating. I spent a few years on that. Not just that, but other things as well. So
he mentioned such a good point that really summed up a lot of what he talks about. And, like, I kind of want to mention that on our podcast. Like, he was talking about, like, the most occulted secret being the law of freedom. As morality increases, freedom increases. But the law of freedom, like, the law of freedom, he expanded on that a little bit. Like, it basically has a lot to do with karma. Like, it's the understanding that karma is real. Like, there are effects of your actions, and it describes how karma works. And it's also about objective morality, because, like, morality increases, that causes freedom to increase. You have to figure out what morality is. It's an objective thing.
Exactly. It's not
it's
so
do
true.
no harm.
I do
But
no
yeah,
harm.
if you do harm, the harm is done, and especially on a whole society in aggregate, like within the earth, we're all part of the earth. So, like, if I do harm to another person on the earth, like I'm part of the earth, but I'm hurting another part of the earth. Like the earth has harm done. The result of harm done is the earth in general becomes less free. It happens individual as well. If I myself violate rights, I violate rights of you. Say I punch you in the face or something. I'm doing harm to you. I wouldn't do that. It's just an example. But say I punch you in the face, I'm harming you. The harm being done is outside of me. But still, I do lose freedom by punching you in the face. Like it reflects back to me. You could get mad at me and punch me back in the face, or break my neck or something, or still like you're going to be less prosperous. You're going to be hurt on the same earth with me. We're supposed to be working together. Like eventually, there might be a long chain reaction that comes back to me in the long run. But like basically, like when freedom increases, or when morality increases, freedom increases. When morality decreases, freedom decreases.
Right.
They've got karma down to a science. Right and wrong is real. Karma is real. And you can't make up what right and wrong is. It's very simple. It comes down to the non-aggression principle and self-defense principle. We could elaborate on that later. I've done that in other episodes. I don't want to go off on a tangent. I don't want to talk for too long. I want to go back to talking about how the dark occultists and society engineers actually use this to control everybody. They keep the knowledge of it away from everybody else.
Sure.
A lot of the occult secrets are psychology, and psychology is an example, like psychology, where one person doesn't know how their mind works, the other person does know how their mind works because they know how minds work in general. The person who knows how mind works can definitely manipulate the person who doesn't know how their mind works. They could deceive them. They could totally rule over them. But same thing with the effects of morality. If some people don't know how the effects of morality work and others do, they can manipulate other people based on that. They could put their bad karma onto someone else. They know like the effects they want done are going to cause bad karma. They're going to do harm. They trick other people into doing the harm that's done so they don't have the bad karma themselves. And they know that because of the low level of morality on the earth in general, there's going to be a low amount of freedom that the earth is entitled to in general. But they keep freedom away from everybody else. That low level of freedom, maybe it's enough to have a lot of freedom for a couple thousand people who are the dark occultist elites ruling the world. They know how all of that works, and they get you to do it by following orders, or even if you're not an order follower, by participating in evil, by giving away your personal responsibility, but by believing in subjective morality, by believing, falling into the divide and conquer, thinking like people want to be good, like they don't want to hurt they don't want to steal from people, they don't want to beat people up, they know not to hurt people in general, and they don't recognize when they are doing wrong. Buying meat is contributing to animal abuse. Like voting and paying taxes is contributing to the government, which blows people into little pieces every day, locks people up all around the world every day. But people are thinking like I'm not the one doing that. Like I'm voting, and those people in the other countries, the ones that are getting blown up, it's for the greater good, because they're bad because they choose to live in a country and pay taxes to a country where the government wants to blow up people over here, and they think that the other people deserve it, but the people in the other country, they think we deserve it for the same exact reason. And I was a victim of that so bad. Like I was saying I don't want to associate with someone who has a Nazi mentality. I will. I want his mentality to get better. If he disrespects me, like I'm willing to be open-minded, because I was as bad as a Nazi when I was in the
Exactly, Jeff. I'm
I
glad you
remember
got to there.
before I even joined the Navy, my recruiter was telling me, like I got a high score on the ASVAB. He was telling me I could be an electrician on a nuclear power plant, go on a submarine, and I was kind of willing to do whatever I want. I thought the government was a force of good. I was thinking about being a Navy SEAL or something, or doing some type of combat. But he was telling me I could get right to a high rank quicker if I do this nuclear power program. And he was showing me he was a submariner. Like I admired his uniform and all his cool badges. And his ribbons he got, his ribbons and medals for doing all these missions where he was on a submarine that shot missiles. And I was thinking, whoa, this guy's cool. He killed the bad guys, like the enemies. But I knew a lot of the people that got blown up, they were innocent civilians. I thought they were enemies because they're living in some country that is hostile towards us, and we're the country fighting for freedom around the world. So if someone in some other country, they want to pay taxes to their military who's trying to kill Americans who are fighting for freedom. If the generals and the president and the higher ups decide this is for the greater good, I believe them. I don't have to make a decision of what's right and wrong. I just do my job, make sure this nuclear power plant on the submarine is working, and then I get the glory. I get to wear this cool stuff on my uniform and get all these bonuses and be a hero for killing the bad guy. I don't even have to decide who the bad guy is. Someone else decides that. I didn't know it, but I was a de facto Satanist. I was on the dark side. And not every Nazi did atrocities. They absolutely did do atrocities and did the Holocaust and everything. But the Nazis that said, no, I don't want to participate in that, they didn't get killed. They might have lost their rank. They got a slap in the wrist punishment. Not all of them even did bad things. And people in the U.S. military did atrocities as well. It is one of the most extreme forms of government, totalitarian, whether it's the left or right, the communist or Nazi. That's what all the government develops to. Yeah, the governments that aren't totally North Korea communist or Nazi Germany, they might have some greater level of freedom at this point, but the whole point of any government is to accelerate to something like that. And any order follower is pretty much as bad as a Nazi. Right. I never killed anybody. I got out of the military without killing anybody. The order followers who follow the orders and do bad things are worse. And I could have done that. I'm glad I got out of it. I changed my mind before I did anything like that.
So we have about 5 more minutes. Oh, it's all good. You wanted to say something about our class with Mark Passio this past week or something?
Yeah, about the order followers, they're even voting or paying taxes or buying meat is like being an order follower. It's doing something that causes harm, but lying to yourself and thinking it doesn't cause harm. You're just contributing to something, and by doing that, you're doing something immoral, and you're making the freedom of the whole planet go down. And the ones who lose the freedom are the common people. The ones who are going to retain the amount of freedom that's entitled to Earth are the order givers, or the ones who even set people up to give the orders and don't even have to give the orders. They set this system in place so it's already going on. They're not even touching it, and they're getting the minimum bad karma. And also, by considering yourself part of this and willfully participating in it, you are being part of some big system where you acknowledge that it's okay to have masters deciding who gets to keep whatever freedom is entitled to Earth, and giving the orders, saying what wrong deeds have to be done. So yeah, just recognize the wrongdoing that you're doing yourself and quit and teach other people to do it. That's the whole point of our podcast.
Kevin, did you have any last
All right.
thoughts?
Let's see. Well, we could do another talk. I would like to discuss Chuck Swindoll. So I'd like to go listen to his videos more and tie it in with natural law and what I learned from Mark Passio and Terrence McKenna and Joseph Atwell and the guy who wrote Jesus the Last Pharaoh. Now, what is his name? I can't believe I can't think of his name. He's a friend of mine on Facebook, and he's a good colleague with Michael Khazarian. But anyway, so it was nice talking with both of you.
You too.
Geraldine, I appreciate you inviting me. Jeff, it was a pleasure. So we got to do this another time.
Awesome. Have a good night, guys. See you next time.
You all have a good night. Good night. Bye-bye.